So one of my favorite things to do on the channel is do player feature videos where I go through their backstory and talk about who they are, their recruitment, and the human side of football. There are so many guys I could talk about in the 2025 transfer portal that I'll just never get an opportunity to get to all of them. One thing I'm trying to do on the channel now is I'm going to try to combine some things. In today's video, I want to introduce you to 3 transfers who I think could be huge names in 2025, could take over college football, and deserve to have their stories told. We have a quarterback, a former 5-star defensive lineman, and a big-time 2026 NFL draft prospect to talk about. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you want to support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and talk about 3 big-time transfers for 2025. Okay, so before we get started, be sure to drop a transfer for 2025 that you think I should cover or put in a video like this next, or one that you think deserves its own solo video. Also be sure to check out my transfer portal playlist. Okay, so the first guy I want to talk about is Nwaneri. He was one of the top recruits in the class of 2024, but really didn't do much at Mizzou, but could take over college football at Nebraska next year. Going back in time to the city of Kansas City, Lee's Summit North High School football coach Jamar Mosey did not see his star defensive end during his team's off-season workouts. They actually met in the school cafeteria. He ended up approaching the tall, lanky freshman to ask him what sport he played. His bet was that he played basketball. Instead, Williams told him that he was playing football. I guess he just wanted to take the year off to get adjusted, but at the time of that first encounter, the football season was 75% over, so he told the promising freshman to show out for football in spring workouts starting in January. Williams said, "I'll be there," and not only did he show up, but he showed out. He quickly climbed the Lee's Summit North depth chart, leading to a starting spot during the second half of his sophomore season. Mosey said, quote, "I've been around football long enough, and I've been around enough good football players that I knew he was going to be a special one. You don't know he's going to be the #1 player in the country, and you don't know that, but it was clear he was going to be special." Nwaneri ended up making history, as eventually he was ranked as the #1 ranked high school football player in the country according to On3. This was because he recorded 149 total tackles, and he started 3 years at the varsity level. He also had plenty of potential and physical upside. In terms of his recruitment, he ended up getting his first offer from the Iowa Hawkeyes, and then after that, he got more motivated and tried to earn more offers, and the entire country went after him. When it came time for him to pick a school, he became Mizzou's 3rd highest ranked recruit ever according to 24/7 Sports. He had a .996 composite score and was the #8 ranked recruit in the country. Both Oklahoma and Georgia also went after Nwaneri really hard, but I think because of Mizzou being in-state, being in the SEC, and because some of their favorable NIL laws, he decided to go to Mizzou. Many thought he'd end up at Oklahoma, but again, this was a huge victory for Eli Drinkwitz. He became the highest ranked commit since Luther Burden III, and only the 4th 5-star to ever come to the Tigers since 2010, which included Terry Beckner Jr., Dorial Green Beckham, and Burden. He earned a comparison to Kansas City Chiefs defensive lineman Chris Jones coming out of high school, and it was safe to say everyone was talking about Nwaneri. Except now, a year later, he's already done, and he's washed up from Mizzou. Williams ended up finishing with 2 total tackles with 1 sack. He pretty much never saw the field, as there were just guys who were more talented or more experienced in front of him on the depth chart. Except nobody in the world thought he would just transfer after 1 season. When he decided to enter the portal, many thought it was definitely for financial reasons, as he either wasn't getting enough, or he just wanted a cash grab from Missouri's high school NIL laws. But he also never got an opportunity to play as a freshman. Still though, it doesn't make sense, as he was likely going to take over as a starter this season, but after appearing in just 4 games, he entered that portal, and this was tough. He ended up entering the portal as a do not contact player though, meaning he had already chosen his future school before he had even entered. He decided to go to Nebraska, and honestly, a lot of this makes sense. I know Mizzou fans don't want to hear it, but his former high school head coach Jamar Mosey, who we talked about earlier in the video, is now at Nebraska. It seems pretty obvious to me that he just wanted to follow his old high school coach, but maybe he just wanted a fresh start, and he probably also is getting a good paycheck from Nebraska. Nebraska's trying to get much better at football, and getting a guy like Nwaneri is huge for them. They have a couple of names to replace on their defensive line, so I think he'll take over as a starter and could wreak havoc in the Big Ten. He's probably already a huge 2027 NFL draft prospect, so we'll have to wait and see what he does, but that was a quick glimpse into who Nwaneri is, and he's a guy I'm super high on for 2025. All roads lead to this year's. The wild ride to New Orleans is almost over, and the big game is just around the corner. For fans looking to cash in on this year's, MyBookie is where it's at. They've packed in promotions, props, and features that make betting on this event not only exciting, but also profitable. So here's the playbook for this year. There's a couple of props that you can bet on, which include how long it'll last, if the singer will nail every word or have a ton of slip-ups, and heck, even the color of this year's Gatorade. Yeah, MyBookie has tons of options, and if you bet, it'll make more fun. There are a couple of options including boosted parlays, the money bag, squares, tiered bonuses, and live betting and streaming. When you decided what you're going to pick, go over to MyBookie and use my promo code Fisher50 for your first bet. Celebrate your Sunday by having a good time with MyBookie and get your game plan ready. If you're one of those people that thinks the NFL was rigged for the Chiefs, you can now use MyBookie to put your money where your mouth is. If there's one thing for certain, we have no idea what's going to happen during the big game this year, but be sure to head over to MyBookie to make this Sunday a little bit more entertaining. Thank you to them for sponsoring today's video. So the second guy we're going to highlight is Tacario Davis. He was one of the best players in college football this year as a corner at Arizona, but going back in time, nobody really knew much about him. He ended up going to Millikan High School in Long Beach, California, and he was a star but a hidden gem. As a senior, Tacario had 49 tackles, 3 interceptions, and then 18 catches for 4 touchdowns on the receiving end. He was not even ranked as a top 1,000 recruit, but got an opportunity to go to Arizona. But backtracking a little bit, he got off to a slow start in high school. As Tacario said, quote, "Freshman year, I didn't have good grades. I was hanging out with the wrong guys, and I was trying to be one of them, but now I've turned it around and became my own person." Davis credits this to former receiver Xavier Staples, who ended up becoming a big recruit who signed with UCLA. This apparently changed his life. He said, quote, "I saw Xavier getting offers. I was like, if he's getting offers, it's possible for me to get offers. I then started putting in the work on and off the field in the classroom and on campus to try to be a better leader and lead by example." He ended up choosing Arizona over offers from Arizona State and Kansas, plus a plethora of Group of 5 schools. He said, quote, "I choose Arizona because they were feeling me more and they were calling me. They were seeing how I was doing outside of football and trying to talk to me and get to know me as a person." As I said, he was ranked as a 3-star recruit, the number 107 corner, and the 1,140th best player in the class of 2022. So how would Tacario do at Arizona? Well, he played in 5 games as a true freshman before taking on a larger role as a sophomore in 2023. He had a total of 25 tackles, including 1 TFL, and his first career interception that season. 2023 was his breakout season alongside Arizona as a whole, as in total, Tacario ended up finishing with 25 tackles and an absurd 15 pass deflections. He became one of the best corners in all of college football, and he also had an interception to go alongside that. With him being 6'4" and having super long arms, he was pretty much perfect as a corner. Because of that, he was getting a ton of hype as a draft prospect, but he'd have to wait 1 more year. He was also trying to get drawn into the portal. He ended up deciding to stay with new head coach Brent Brennan in Arizona instead of following Jedd Fisch over to Washington. This past season, though, he ended up having an okay year, as he did increase to 43 total tackles, but only had 6 pass deflections. I can only assume this is for 2 reasons, as 1, they probably weren't throwing the ball as much his way, and 2, Arizona was sort of a dumpster fire. Arizona missed a bowl game, but still though, Tacario was a second-team All-Big 12 player. This time, instead of going off to the NFL, he would decide to enter the portal instead. He finished his Arizona career with 75 tackles, 22 pass deflections, and 1 interception. This was an interesting decision, as the media has been super high on Tacario, as many believe that he could be a first-round pick. Except I guess the NFL itself has been a little bit more mixed on him, as according to them, he's more of a day 2, meaning rounds 2 or 3, type of prospect. So instead of declaring for the 2025 draft, he is now heading up north to Washington and over to the Big Ten to once again play for Jedd Fisch. He's definitely trying to have a better season than he did at Arizona this past year, and reuniting with his former coach and playing in the Big Ten should honestly help him out a little bit. I think he's probably a top 3 corner in college football for 2025, and could honestly be the number 1 corner prospect for the 2026 draft. We'll have to wait and see what happens, but he's a guy who I'm super excited to watch, and after not being ranked inside the top 1,000, Tacario Davis has a pretty cool story as well. So the third and final guy I want to talk about today is Luke Kromenhoek. Football runs in Luke's family, as his father played at UMass, and his older brother Mac was also a star linebacker. Luke recalls his first football experience like it was yesterday, as he was apparently 5 years old when his father dressed him and his son up in full pads and helmets, and they went toe-to-toe in the front yard, in front of their family's home in Savannah, Georgia. He said, quote, "I remember my older brother got the best of me the first time we started. He then started to work super hard, and throughout the years became a quarterback. After his freshman year of high school, he was starting to get his feet under him, and was also starting to get a lot of recruiting attention. He was stuck behind Holden Gariner, who was a 4-star Auburn commit, and Luke received his first offer from Florida State. He said, quote, "I didn't expect to get an offer like that this soon. I had been going to a few camps just to get my name out there, and when I got the offer, I was just amazed and dumbfounded. It It was a dream come true, and I'm super happy. Because he was a backup, he ended up moving to receiver, and he caught a total of 25 passes for 287 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also ran for 186 yards and 5 more scores, and played safety with 61 tackles and 5 pass deflections. Pretty quickly, he eventually decided to commit to Florida State, as he said, quote, "Coach Norvell at FSU gave me my first offer, and I hadn't taken a varsity snap yet, and that meant a lot to me. He believed in me first, and said it was committable from the very beginning, and I believed him. Florida State also checked all the boxes for me as a student athlete." So yeah, he was going to FSU, and at the time chose the Noles over UCF, Coastal Carolina, and Clemson was showing serious interest. He committed before he ever started a game, but went on to have a terrific 2 years as a quarterback at Benedictine. As a junior, he ended up leading his team to a state title while throwing for 2,600 yards, 24 touchdowns, and just 3 picks, while completing 65% of his passes and being a threat on the ground with 453 yards and 7 touchdowns. He then followed it up again with 2,600 yards and 24 touchdowns and 2 picks as a senior, while running for nearly 600 yards and 7 scores on the ground. At the time, he also became a 5-star recruit according to On3, and this was a massive get for Florida State, and he had quickly jumped up recruiting rankings. But luckily for Mike Norvell and Noles fans at the time, his loyalty never wavered, even when Georgia came in. Georgia decided to make him an offer, and Kromenhoek posted on Twitter saying, quote, "Thanks, but no thanks." The offer was somewhat tempting for him, but he said he never thought twice. Kromenhoek said, quote, "Georgia had a quarterback decommit, and they came and asked around to see if I would be interested. Nope, he was not going to do that." He arrived at Florida State in 2024 with a lot of attention, but was never supposed to play because he was going to be the backup to DJ Uiagalelei and Brock Glenn. But, as we all know, he became the starter by the end of the season because why not? And he didn't play in the first 6 games, but made his first start against Charleston Southern. He threw for 209 yards and 3 touchdowns. Sadly, in the season finale against Florida, though, he went 15 of 28 for 140 yards. In total, he ended up throwing for 502 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 picks, and also ran for about 100 on the ground. He decided to enter the 2025 transfer portal, and I'm not quite sure why. He could have easily been the starter next year, but maybe he got more money, wanted a new start, or wanted to be in a better system. I really don't know. He eventually decided to commit to Mississippi State, and will now be playing under Jeff Lebby, who's been known as a quarterback whisperer. He did pretty good things with Michael Van Buren, who was a true freshman last year, and Kromenhoek still has 3 years to play at Mississippi State. Still though, I'm not quite sure if Luke will play. Yes, in my opinion, he's much more talented and has a lot of potential and probably had a huge hefty NIL price tag, but they already have Blake Shapen, who will be back for his 15th year of college football, and it seems like these coaches always love to pick these 6th-year guys instead of the dudes with actual potential. Shapen ended up starting the first 4 games last year before a shoulder injury and got his medical hardship waiver. It'll most likely come down to Luke and Blake for that starting job, but you also cannot rule out Camario Taylor, who blew up as a 2025 quarterback recruit and is actually listed inside the top 100. Camario definitely won't play, and here's how I think it's going to go. I think Blake Shapen probably starts the first couple of games, doesn't really do anything, and either gets hurt or gets benched. Luke probably then takes over the back 2/3 of the year, balls out, and shows a lot of potential. I think Luke's big season, though, will be in 2026, and honestly, I don't really anticipate him being an NFL quarterback right away, so I think he will truly play probably 4 years of college football and go off to the 2028 draft. That's just my opinion, and that doesn't mean much, but if Mississippi State is smart, they should just roll with Luke next year, and based on what I've seen, I think Luke has a ridiculous amount of potential and could be a big name in college football given the right circumstances. Okay, so yeah, today we talked about 3 big names in the 2025 portal, and let me know what you guys think. How do you think these 3 players will do? And who's another underrated transfer I should put in my next video? I could probably do 25 of these over the next couple of months, but that'll be based on if you guys even want them and how well they perform. So if you want to help out the video, be sure to leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and check out all of the videos on the end screen, including my video about John Mateer. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.